Hey friends, it's Andrew, and this is Serves You Right. I've spent over 20 years in the service industry, bartending, managing, barback, doing pretty much everything, and I've loved it. I've hated it too. I've learned a lot. In this podcast, I like to ask one main question. Can you really be happy working in this business? Can you grow, evolve, find a way to do something more if you want? I don't know, but that's what we're talking about here. Every week, I do 2 episodes. I talk to people from across the hospitality world and beyond. So far, I've got people from chefs, authors, former servers who've turned into entrepreneurs, lawyers, creators, and everything in between. I try to dive into what helped them, what could help you, what held them back, and what it really takes to build a better life. Whether that means mastering service or going beyond. This podcast is part personal journey, part conversation hub, honestly, part just what I'm interested in, so I hope you like it too. If you've ever felt stuck or sparked by the chaos in a restaurant, let's do this. Let's go. All right, today I got a chance to sit down and talk to Brian Sincerbeaux. This is a fun episode for me. Me and Brian go way back. We bartended together at Elf Roll. We knew each other in the service industry. Brian was the one that came with me to get my level 1 quartermaster sommelier certification all those days ago. So super exciting moment today. We jump right in with a inside joke. The thing I'm going to ask him to start with is something I once said to him when I was dating ex long ago, and we jokingly just referred back to it over and over again. If you look at my Facebook, there are pictures of me and Brian bartending at Elf Roll in Cinco de Mayo 8 years ago. Just a really good chance to catch up with him. Someone I've always admired, and I'm really happy to see that he's doing well. So that's about it. Let's just jump in.
Okay, yeah, man, fire away. I'm anxious to see where this goes.
Awesome. So I wrote down going through the past and some of the things we lived through. I just wrote, I'm happy that Brian's happy that I'm happy. And so what does that mean to you?
Oh man, that means so much, because actually I remember that quote vividly now that you mentioned it, but I hadn't thought of it quite a while. It makes me think of the history that we've shared, and everything that we've gone through, thick and thin, up and down, success, struggles, so on and so forth. But I think I've actually I think what jumps out, first and foremost, is like the enduring friendships that you can make in the industry. Even though like you and I haven't, really sat down and chatted for a while, here we are, picking up where we left off.
Yeah,
and so it makes me think of that.
10 years, right?
I remember seeing you guys off to Tulsa. In fact, actually, I was at your yard sale. And I still have your monogrammed laundry bag, too, that I bought from you. So ADR is still in my side room here, actually holding my own clothes now. So, yeah. So actually, that's the last time we saw each other in person. And I think we probably chatted through various social media over the years. But this is the first time I think we've had a full conversation in a while.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, here we are, our friendship has carried through somehow. And so, that quote that you just read makes me think of the industry and the people that we meet. And even though actually, and a lot of people from Santa Fe, being back here on the East Coast, especially, and also since I've quit all social media, I've lost touch with a lot of people, but I have a feeling that the friendship is still there. It's just dormant. So it makes me think of that. And just a lot of good times, a lot of fun that we had and that we shared, it's that's the thing that pops up first and foremost when you say that quote.
Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of history there.
So much.
Yeah, because I was trying to piece together today, going back I know that me and you worked together at El Ferrol. I was struggling to remember where we met and where we started working together before that. I like, was it Il Piatto? Was
We
the
worked together at Il
beginning or?
Piatto. We worked together at Il Piatto, but I think where we met, and I was trying to piece it together before we came on today. Actually, I think it was actually Mark's wine class. Um,
That's right. Okay,
yeah, and
thank you.
so
Thank
yeah, and
you.
so actually, which has ties to Il Piatto because it was Alan Deem and I who started it, and then we met at Il Piatto initially. I don't know if you met us there, but then you and one or two other people came in, and then of course that class essentially became the three of us, you, me, and Alan, meeting wherever we could actually find a spot. Whoever would host us ended up being La Boca Taberna for a while because I worked there for a little bit of a stretch. And then, yeah, like whoever would house the three crazy guys wanted to learn wine. That's where we would meet. And then, yeah, and so that's where our friendship started. And then working together professionally was Il Piatto, and then, of course, El Farol. And then there was one bar that you worked at. It became Skylight, but the bar that it was before
Mm.
that, you worked there, and I worked with you for one lovely evening, I think. And for whatever reason, I didn't stick on there. Whether I think it might have been more of a scheduling thing than anything. But yeah, professionally, Beato and El Ferrol, and then but primarily, and I think that for the longest stretch, the wine studies.
Yeah, that's right. I'm so glad that you remembered that because I was trying to recreate that in my head. And I was thinking, like, you weren't at El Piano for that long of a time, and you were at La Boca. So it was the wine study with Mark Johnson. Yeah, wow, that's a blast of the past. Me and you went and got our level one together,
We
actually.
did, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, which was one of the highlights for me of my time in the industry back then, but also I should say now that I'm back in it full time so far was one just that study that that taking the time, having the camaraderie that we had in that class with the three of us, and then eventually Mary Frances came along and Joe came along, and so the class kind of like it expanded, it contracted, and but the class, like the camaraderie that we built through studying with you, Alan, and I, and then of course you and I decided to travel from Santa Fe up to Colorado Springs because that was the closest level one that we could find to us because they weren't hosting them in Santa Fe yet. And then, but yeah, and then taking that trip up to Colorado Springs at I believe it was the Broadmoor Hotel, which was a very upscale 5-star hotel. Naturally, we got a very downscale, maybe 3-star motel
It's like
room to stay in,
Motel 6 or something, if I remember.
something yeah along those lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just remember everything that we learned about the industry, especially in the wine and spirit realm, but also just like the friendship that we formed through doing that was definitely a lasting memory for me.
Yeah, that is crazy. That so much has come downstream of that series of events that is just wild. Like there's no me in my current job or me in really my past two jobs without that wine certification. And yeah, it just all started from studying wine in a free class in the afternoons in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think actually in a way it was that study that kept me interested in the industry long enough because what I've come to realize for me, um, now having some longevity, but also having gotten out of the industry but coming back to it, to find that there's a lot of positivities to the industry. There's a lot of things that still excite me about it. And one thing that I've noticed about having any longevity in the industry is the need for me, at the very least, I think it might be true for others, to continue learning and to continue growing in the industry. And so that wine class, one, it really broadened my knowledge of the industry, but also of the world too, because when you study wine, you have to study the world at large, everything from agriculture and farming to uh, uh, you've got to study weather phenomena and weather patterns. You've got to study politics. You've got to study economics. You've got to study history. So, like, whenever anybody would ask me, like, what do you have to know to be a sommelier? It's like, well, you literally have to know everything.
Yes. Well,
It
only
was
the
very
important things, but it's all important. So,
sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it really it helped me to realize that continuous education is very important to having longevity in the industry. Keeping yourself interested and also keeping your flame ignited. So that class actually kept me in the industry for a long period of time. And even though I got away from it for a while, now going back, I would say that in a more roundabout way, that class actually helped me get to where I am professionally as well.
hmm. Now, did you ever go beyond the level one?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
was, of course, I think our goal was to go to level two together, and I tailed off, and then you kept going. And so then I had to circle back around and take level one again because, of course, I think it expires before you can take level two. And so I
Hmm.
ended up taking level one again. I think getting a better score, even though they don't let us know what we scored. But I ended up going through and passing level one with Xena and Tomas, Irish Tomas, the second time. And so, and again, actually, like, having a lot of forging new bonds with those two, which turned into new friendships. But then even going through level one again, having already passed it, it deepened my knowledge of wine, probably stuff that I had forgotten by that point, or maybe new things in the industry, which came along from the time that we passed level one the first time to the time I took it the second time. For instance, and actually kind of tying to where I am now, the Finger Lakes in upstate New York has become somewhat of a slightly known wine area. And actually, that's where I live right now. I'm back in the Finger Lakes. It's where I grew up. And so it's kind of cool to see, even it only been maybe 5 or 6 years, like the world of wine can grow that quickly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Do you get to go and check out wineries out there, or how does
Well,
that work?
actually, well, and so part of my story in the past several years is actually I've quit drinking altogether. And
Okay.
so, yeah, and so I as interested in as I am in the wineries. Of course, like for me, if one were to go to a winery, it would be to go and test a product and so on and so forth. So, since you take that out of the equation, there really isn't too much of a purpose for me to go there. However, now that I'm back in the industry, in the capacity that I am, I've started working full time for a caterer. Some of the wineries we do events at, so I'll be going to wineries again, but just not to drink. It's mostly to host events. So
Yeah, that's cool. That makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah, we
yeah.
don't go to the bowling alley for the hot dogs.
No, we don't.
Yes.
No, it's like, and then an expression I heard along the way too is that if you hang out at a barber shop for a long enough time, you're eventually going to get a haircut.
Sure.
So yeah.
So, did you quit drinking just for your health, or just
It
clear
was
things up?
actually for yeah, it was for health, and then also too, something that's a reality about myself, which I've learned along the way, was that I actually became fairly addicted to alcohol and
Mm,
was drinking full blown alcoholically at a point, and so the ramifications got to be too dire in my case, and so I decided that. I couldn't drink in a healthy manner. As much as I wanted to drink casually and be able to enjoy maybe just a beer or two or a glass of wine with dinner. For me, and I'm not alone in this that I couldn't stop at just one, and so
mhm.
and I can't quite explain why it is. I don't know why I'm different in that regard, but I'm also not alone in that because I've learned along the way. And so what I realized that alcohol and I can get along as long as I don't put it in my body. So, and that's where I'm at now.
Sure, sure. Yeah. No, no,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's great
yeah,
to hear. I would be lying if I said every once in a while I didn't think, do I enjoy drinking a little too much? I take extended breaks. That's kind of my way of dealing with it. But there's always that question, are you throwing the party or is the party kind of in charge? So,
yeah, yeah. And for me, of course, like I took extended breaks, took two really long breaks for a while, and I noticed during those breaks that my life got nothing but better. And of course, this isn't to demonize alcohol, but for me, just my
mm,
consumption of alcohol, it leads to unintended consequences, which are not very pretty. But when I take alcohol out of my life, as I have now for a few times, my life gets nothing but better. And so I'm able to meet my I'm able to meet life in a better, more constructive, and a happier manner when I don't drink. And maybe one day, I don't know, like if something will switch in me, or maybe body chemistry will change, but where I would be able to drink and maybe have like one or two with dinner, and then just leave it at that. But what I know of myself is that at this point right now, at least the last time I picked up a drink, it turned into a fairly long bender. And so at this point, I just decided to take alcohol out of my life completely, at least consuming it. And I feel perfectly fine. I mean, I don't feel a need or a want necessarily to drink. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. In fact, actually, listening to one of your previous episodes, since I was doing a little homework on the show beforehand, you said something to the effect of like, did we front load our alcohol consumption? Like,
Oh, with Shane. Yeah.
yeah, working, yeah, and so like, so maybe maybe we're allotted a certain amount of alcohol in our lives, and then like, working in the industry, we pack it all in at the front, and so now it's just time for me to step away from consuming alcohol, happily serve it. I mean, I'm happy to still be in the industry and still doing it, and still getting a lot of fulfillment from it. But as long as it doesn't go in, as long as it keeps going out to other people, that's the relationship I have with booze right now.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Yeah, and you know, I feel like so much of life is like that too. I currently, I don't know if I told you where I landed, but I'm the general manager of a steakhouse, and I see these people that like come in every night and they eat heavy, and I've been on a real health kick in the last couple of years, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll happily serve the porterhouse and I'll happily serve all the like mac and cheese, but yeah, I will consume that every once in a while, but I couldn't do it every night like I see these people doing. It's yeah, you have to have some sort of limit. Yeah.
And I've noticed that too, and and I've actually started switching up my own lifestyle, particularly with my diet over the past couple months. I've actually started to eat more vegetable heavy, not
Mm.
vegetarian or not vegan, but more vegetable heavy, and also with an eye toward eating more seasonally as well. And so, even though after a couple months, I'm starting to view the world of food and food service a little differently. Like, um, and so like the food that I'm going to be serving with a catering company, it's like I couldn't eat that every night. Like, yeah, the leftovers that we have at the end of a night, it's like it's great to throw in the fridge and have that, but a lot of it's like, the last time I brought home leftovers, it was pasta, and chicken. So like I can't have pasta, chicken 3 meals a day.
Yeah. Well,
So
I definitely thought I could, and then I figured out that you cannot. Yes.
well, I once upon a time I did do that, and I perhaps like I don't know if the ramifications of that health wise have caught up to me now. And I'm 49. I turn 50 on my next birthday, so they say another quote I've heard is that the things that you did in your 20s and 30s catch up to you in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. So
Hmm.
and so now I'm seeing that. And yeah, so like I'm happy to serve the people what they want. I know that as long as I serve it to them, but also take care of myself and eat the way that I need to for my own health, I'm just better in the industry, but also just better in my life as a whole.
Yeah. If I can, yeah, I don't want us to be a this is the downer, don't drink, don't eat fun foods conversation. I did want to kind of trace back with you. So in trying to recreate where we met up and where we knew each other, I realized that, I know some of the major milestones of your career and what you were doing as far as it related to me, but I kind of lost track of where you ended up after I left Santa Fe. And so I was wondering kind of what happened after that. It was 2018. Um, like what did things look like? Because I know the pandemic came. There was always a big shift in
Sure.
everyone's life, and yeah, I was wondering if we
Yeah.
could kind of look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, and I hope this doesn't turn into too much of a downer. But I one of the things I like about your intro to the show is how you talk about can you have redemption in the industry. And so now, as I sit here as we're talking, I'm going through my redemption. in the industry. After you guys left, I was still in really high standing. The way I describe it to some people who I met along the way is that, when I was in Santa Fe, I became extremely sought after in the industry. I had working for this restaurant and that, I had other restaurants or other bars trying to lure me away to come and work for them. Like I had a really, really good positive standing. For instance, I went to work for Geronimo for a summer. Went in as a back
Oh,
waiter.
that's bougie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So when I went to work for them, somewhat a little bit intimidated, haven't done that level of service before that, but made captain within a month. So that's when I realized that I think I've got the goods to do almost anything in the industry, and so I gained a lot of confidence from that. And then I found, was looking for the right spot and the right fit for me. I don't know that I ever fully found it on 100%, but nonetheless, no matter where I was, like people came looking for me. And in fact, actually, one night at a pop-up dinner at a friend's house, Antonio Gallegos and Elena Morales, I don't know if you knew them along the way, but they worked for Boosh in Charles Dale. And
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
yeah,
I don't know their names, but I know the restaurant. Okay.
yeah. And so they were running it at that point. And had been friends of mine, within a circle of friends. And so I knew them fairly well. I worked with Elena at La Boca. And so she and I became pretty good buds along the way. And at the dinner party, they just straight up, like in the middle of their kitchen, said, "Hey, like we want you to come and work with us," because Bush was a very small place. Like I think maybe you could seat at capacity with the interior 25 people. So small place, small kitchen, very small staff, only open 5 nights a week, and so they had the ability to invite people in. They didn't really take resumes necessarily. So they actually invited the staff that they wanted to work with. And so they chose me, and I thought it was a great opportunity. That's when we were working at El Farol together, in fact. And so I ended up uh, wanting to go ahead and get back to the fine dining aspect of it at Boost, but also bartend at El Farol, because those are the two things I like the most. I like the bartend and I like the fine dining aspect too. So I figure if my career could be, those two aspects at two of the premier spots in Santa Fe, then, I've just landed in my perfect world in the industry. But of course, it didn't work out with El Farol, so I ended up at Boosh full time. But along the way to Boosh, my habits with the industry started to catch up to me. And so my drinking, which was already heavy, actually began to, the party started to run me. I wasn't running the party, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so that started a downward spiral for me, unfortunately, where I wasn't able to hold on to work because drinking became more important to me than actually showing up and doing the job. And so that led me down a pretty dark path where I became at one point I was sought after. I became somewhat unemployable in the industry because, of course, Santa Fe is a small town and everybody knows one another. And so word got around that, Brian couldn't keep it together. Unfortunately, looking back at it now, I've made some peace. I still actually have a lot of amends to make with people from back in the days, to use that terminology. But I'd like to do that face to face, and so that would require me getting physically back to Santa Fe at some point. But we'll see if and when that can happen. But that was in the industry, that was a dark chapter in my life, and that was definitely a rock bottom experience for me. But fast forward to today. Now that I've taken alcohol out of my life and I actually have regained my wits and also my capability, but also like my hunger and my kind of an insatiable wants and need to move forward in life and to learn about it. Here I am, extremely sought after in the industry again. And so I met some friends along the way who work in the industry, and this is when I was actually working in retail. And they invited me back. And one thing I said about the industry was that I was retired, but if a catering gig ever came along, I would do that. That way I could pick and choose when I wanted to work, because I don't know, like if you have ever worked full-time catering or know much about that aspect of our industry.
It's a grind, kind of, yeah.
It is, yeah. but most catering companies have full-time staff, but also they take part-time staff when they have bigger gigs that they need additional staffing for. So they'll put out invitations, or like they'll put you on a list, and then they'll just send out invitations like, hey, we need somebody to work on this day at this time. And it's just like a one and done shift. And so I did that, done that over the past year. And I found that one, that I missed the industry tremendously. I really I like the grind of it. I like what we do for people. I like being able to take the puzzle pieces and putting them all together to make a really high level event. And of course, like a lot of it is wedding stuff. So like, these are high dollar events too. Like people are spending thousands and thousands. In fact, actually, the most expensive wedding that I worked last fall, they easily spent $100,000, if not more. And so to be a part of that, and make that all to come together, at least I'd be be a pair of hands putting that all together. I found that it was a fulfillment that I hadn't felt in quite a while. So I wanted to have that again. And so since I did a good enough job for that company, they wanted to keep me on. And so they would give me like little spot gigs here and there over the winter just to kind of keep myself interested. And then a couple months ago, they came to me with a full court press saying, hey, like, going into the summer, we'd like to have you full time. And at the time, my retail gig was going well enough. I kind of liked having a 40-hour-a-week job, or guaranteed 40. So that way, like, with our industry, I don't know if you experience it where you are, but like up here in upstate New York, it's very similar to Santa Fe. Even that, like, I live in a college town. So like when the students are here, our population doubles. But when they go away, like, we're just a very, very small city. Like you can't even call us a city, I don't think. And so like you have the ebbs and the flows of it. So I wasn't sure I wanted to have that again. But nonetheless, I taken that step. My last day at the retail job was Friday, so 2 days ago. So, and then I'll be starting full time for catering, back in the industry full time this coming week. And I'm looking at it with a lot of excitement. I'm kind of happy to be doing it full time again. For some reason, the industry just makes sense to me. Working retail,
I get that.
yeah, it's like working retail. It's like no matter how hard I worked, I still made the same hourly. And so, but like whatever charm that I developed through serving and bartending, like that didn't lead to me walking out with tips in my pocket. It was just a paycheck every week. And then I come to realize too that the retail company that I worked for, they're a corporation, and so I don't really work well in corporate environments. I like small, I like independent, I like having the freedom to be myself. And when they say black on black, they don't hand me a black uniform. I get to wear my own black clothing, so I get to have individuality. And so these are things that I missed about the industry that now I get to experience again. And so, and again, like these are things that I didn't realize I missed until I got back into it. But I'm happy to have them back now. And it just feels more me, professionally speaking.
Yeah, no. I was surprised to hear that you weren't in the industry still, because you have such a talent for it, such a knack for getting along with people. I obviously didn't know what was going on when you were at Boosh, but at least with the drinking, but I do remember you there and just how well you did. I still remember you had a party and you were disappointed. I think they got like the premier cru Burgundy instead of the grand cru, and it was like that's a great problem to have,
Well, and that's like, that's actually, I had even forgotten about that party. And yeah, and that's one of the things I realized that I missed about the industry too, is that like the wonders of the world, like, we serve that to people. They don't necessarily have to go to Burgundy, France to get Premier Cru and Grand Cru. We can serve that to them. At Boosh, we I forget the name of the industry or the organization, but we did a dinner for them once a quarter, and the name will come back to me. But one of the dinners that we served for them was Sauterne. So we did all of the best Sauternes that the world has to offer, and I got to be a part of that crew that actually helped them have that dinner. So 5-star fine dining dinner with the best Sauternes. Got to drink Chateau de Chem for the very first time. Which was an experience in and of itself. And so, And these are other things that I think about. Like, I didn't come from the world of fine dining. I grew up in rural upstate New York, and so I grew up eating meat and potatoes. But then all of a sudden, here I am in this world where the finest aspects of the world in terms of food and drink and beverage and service, like here I am in the middle of it, and also doing extremely well at it. And so it was actually quite a journey to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and again, like these are career highlights for me. And I did extremely well at Boosh before I started to unravel. But it's good to know that one, I had that, but also two, that I can redeem myself. Going back to the theme of redemption and get back to that. And so, being new to the catering company, I have a feeling that some doors are going to now open up that maybe weren't there before working in the retail space.
For sure, for sure. How did you end up in Santa Fe? Just a thought popped in my head. I don't think I ever
Oh
asked you
my
that.
goodness. Yeah, no, actually, I think this is a part of my life which we never talked about. So
Hmm.
I got to Santa Fe from Colorado. So I moved from upstate New York to Colorado, and of course, uh, what's the what's the great one of the greatest motivations for any young man? A woman. So I moved to Colorado with a woman. And we spent a couple years there. I was in Boulder, Colorado, having a great time. And actually, that was before I ever set foot in a restaurant professionally. And so, but my wonder and my curiosity to the world led me to the world of spirituality and everything that entails. So I had been reading spiritual books along the way, learning about Buddhism, Zen, Taoism, and then I read the works of a gentleman. His name is Carlos Castaneda, and he is an author who kind of showed the world the spiritual um, philosophy and experience of what's called Toltec, which is a Mesoamerican spiritual tradition, which was unknown to me before I read it, and that opened up a lot of doorways for me as well. Ended up catching on with or met a couple over the internet in the early days of the internet who were living in Santa Fe, and they were Toltec teachers, and so I ended up becoming a student of theirs. And they were living in Santa Fe at the time. And when the lady who I moved to Colorado with, she and I split up. There was nothing holding me in Colorado at all, but they were in Santa Fe. So I thought, why not go and do Santa Fe? And I had already visited them there a couple of times. And every time I went to Santa Fe, I had the distinct feeling of that I was coming home. And so Santa
Hmm.
Fe always actually had this special connection for me that, like, everything very warm, very inviting. And I thought to myself, well, nothing keeping me in Colorado. I don't want to go back to New York. I want to keep, moving forward and venturing west, although actually from Colorado to Mexico, it's south, as it were. But uh, so I ended up moving to
Close
Santa
enough.
Fe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up moving to Santa Fe to be closer to these spiritual teachers. And then it was in Santa Fe where I got my start in restaurants. I was working just whatever job I could find in Santa Fe while I got there. I did retail again for a while. And then I ended up going to work for Wells Fargo, the bank. I was there with them for a few years as a banker. And then I got my start in restaurants with Sal and Kim Talumu and their daughter Star. And they had a restaurant and they needed day servers. And they were willing to hire me with absolutely zero experience and teach me how to be a daytime server. And that's where I got my start. And I ended up venturing down to Santa Fe, actually downtown to Santa Fe. And I worked for Rob Day at the San Francisco Street Bar and Grill for quite a while.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, and that's actually when I think when I worked for Sal and Kim and Star, I really still didn't know what I was doing. I knew the basics of how to be a server. In fact, actually, one night I went in as a busser for them and completely overloaded a serving tray of stuff, lost my balance, and it tipped over in the middle of the dining room. And some water glasses that I had stacked up, which of course I figured out very quickly you shouldn't do. A lot of water went down this woman's back, who was there to have a really nice steak dinner. And so that's how bad I was at the job to
She
start with.
she was awake for it. Yes.
She became very awake and
Yes.
let out a very loud shriek in the middle of a very busy dinner service. So But of course, I got my footing. I learned how to stack trays, and then I eventually I learned how to be a server too. And
Now,
then
just to make sure, is that the star that's the GM of Joseph's now?
yes, yep,
Okay, cool,
yep,
cool. I wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah, that's great. I didn't.
yeah.
I don't think I ever realized that you guys worked together, and she gave you the start.
Yeah,
That's
she did.
cool.
Yeah, and actually, it's kind of funny. Star gave me my first job in restaurants, and now the boss of my current company, with catering company, her last name is Star. So I don't know if that's just like foretelling that maybe this will be the bookend of my career in the hospitality industry, but we'll see how it goes. Just something kind of funny and out there I thought about the other day.
The stars have aligned.
The
Couldn't
stars
resist.
have
Yes.
aligned exactly, and then we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then yeah, I worked for Robbie for quite a few years actually, and that's his restaurant is actually where I learned how to bartend.
Okay.
And yeah, I got behind the bar there, and met one of the best bartender teachers I could ever have imagined working for. A gentleman by the name of Joseph, who was out of the industry before you and I met. Actually, I think that was his last job in the industry. But he taught me how to work a bar better than anybody else I could have imagined, like how to set it up, how to prioritize your customers, how to basically move as quickly as you can in as few steps as you can, especially when it's getting really busy. Of course, they taught me drink recipes, but he also said, like, drink recipes are going to come, but you need actually to be a great bartender, you have to know how to move behind a bar. And he taught me his ways of doing it. Actually, stuff that he taught me is stuff I still use today behind the bar.
Mm. Yeah, that was your. I had Todd Walker as my kind of bar mentor, but yeah, that's awesome. You
Yeah.
need someone like that behind the bar. If you don't get that, you can tell the people that have been thrown in without any guidance. It
Mm-hmm.
just you just make it work, but they always seem like fish out of water.
Yeah, they do, and it's kind of funny now that I'm in a bit of a mentor ship now too, where now that I'm somewhat of an elder statesman, working with some people in the catering company currently who are new to the industry altogether. And so one young woman is very eager to be behind a bar, and I worked with her on a couple of shifts so far, and I've seen her work behind a bar, and she has that thing that you need behind a bar, like that focus and that determination to get the job done that you can't teach a person. So she has the it factor. All she lacks is the mechanics. So I've kind of taken her under my wing to like explain the mechanics of it to her, because if she chooses to stay in the industry, she's going to make a great bartender. So I just figured, like, I can take what I was given, having a great teacher, and try to be a good teacher for her to propel her forward if she wants to make a go of being a bartender.
Yeah, that is interesting. You say that. What is that? Because I know what you're talking about. The thing that you see someone and it's like, oh, you could be a bartender. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like I know I have it. I worked for years. I know you have it, and I've seen
yeah,
people that even look like they could have been a good bartender, but you like interact with them for a few minutes and you're like, I don't know. Yeah, like it seems like you're just going to be more like a waiter, and I don't
yeah.
know what it is, but like it is something.
Yeah,
It's
and it's funny. Like I worked with her directly on one gig. We actually worked at prom, and so we weren't even working a bar necessarily. Like we did, of course, like high school kids, and so we were serving frozen daiquiris and Coke and Sprite and Diet Coke, and also Shirley Temples. And so at one point, we had a little bit of a lull, and so I walked out just to walk on the floor to do some bussing and help the people who were on the floor. And I looked over her, and I just saw her moving, and I saw the way that she was moving, and she had her like she was completely present and focused in a way that a good bartender is going to have. And even though she hasn't worked a lot of bars before that, and now only worked a couple since then, like dude, there was a spark that she had, like there was a glow that she had. That's like, yeah, like she's in the exact right spot for herself. And she actually, oddly enough, came out of the tech industry. So I don't know how you could have that, but I know that having seen enough people and met enough people that I think we all have hidden talents that don't pertain to perhaps our schooling and our job experience. But again, if she wants to stay in the industry, I think she's going to be a fantastic bartender.
yeah, hidden deep within both me and you is the ability to be a dog groomer. We haven't explored it yet.
I mean, I got a doggy sitting right outside my door here, so she does need a good brushing here pretty soon if she'll let me. So
Yeah. So, how much of what came after do you think is a result of the fact that you happened to land in Santa Fe? Because I ask myself that sometimes. Would my life have played out differently had I not landed up in the land of enchantment, where there's all these people, all this wine, all this ability to learn and be in just kind of the cultural thick of one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world?
yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate in that regard. Like we had God, we had any pick of restaurant to go work at. Of course, like Santa Fe has every cuisine that there is, short of maybe I didn't have a Cajun restaurant actually when I left. Maybe it does now. I haven't been in quite a while. But at the same time, though, like you could work with any cuisine that you wanted to, any style of service, from like I did bar and grill all the way up to Geronimo 5-star fine dining. Brew pubs were getting to be a big thing. Gastro pubs were starting to be a big thing when I left. And Santa Fe had always stayed on the forefront of the service industry. And we were very fortunate, I realize, in that regard, because living where I do now in Ithaca, New York, and it's a nice food town, and even with like two universities, one of which is an Ivy League school, so we have an international influence here. It's a nice food town, but it's not a Santa Fe food town. And so we were very fortunate that we got to come up in that world. And if I hadn't have started there, I don't know if I would have gotten into restaurants at all. Just like the plethora of restaurants that were there, and Sal and Kim and Star needed help. And they were willing to hire somebody without any experience. I don't know if I could have gotten that start anywhere else. So I hesitate to say. I mean, I don't know if I would have gone into the industry to begin with. But circumstances are what they are, and so we did, and I'm grateful for it, to say the least.
Sure. Are you happy with how things have turned out? I know it's kind of hard to answer that. Can't really go back and relive life and try something different, but
No, and actually, and hopefully, to pull us out from the darker things that we were talking about, I can say honestly that I am as fulfilled in life right now as I ever have been. Even though ups and downs and struggles, and having lost my dad and my brother, just only a couple of years ago, and now I'm caretaking my mom, and so I'm there watching her get a little bit older. So then there's the reality of that. Nonetheless, given everything that I've gone through and I'm going through, I can say that my life is as good now as it's ever been, hands down, like without hesitation.
if you could go back and give yourself advice 5, 10, 20 years ago, is there anything you would have told yourself to do differently?
Yeah. Actually, it's things that it's things that I would tell any younger person in the industry now. And actually, and hopefully, as I get to work with them, I can start to impart some of this knowledge based on my own experience. I would say definitely eat better. Hydrate. Basically, take care of yourself physically. Take care of your food, shelter, and clothing. The late nights, they're fun to have, and maybe they're necessary to have too. I don't know. But I'm definitely glad that I had many of them. But there are many that I wish I had not had at the same time. So I would say, take care of yourself. Eat well, hydrate. Of course, take care of your house, because when you come home from a busy night, you want to have a good, healthy, comfortable spot to come home to unwind in, and that's yours. That's something that I wish I had known back then. And then I would say also too, keep learning too. That's actually, again, what kept me in the industry for so long. Whatever it is about the industry, whether you study, a wine and spirit, whether you actually, or maybe if you're listening to this in your back of house, keep expanding your repertoire in the back of house too. Keep educating yourself, and don't let yourself get stagnant in that regard, because it's there's so much more to learn. The world of wine changes every day. The culinary side of things changes all the time. Who knew that mac and cheese would have come back into style? I couldn't have seen that one coming to save my life. But also too, what I've noticed too is that you want to have and develop and cultivate interests outside of the job too. Like you want to be extremely well rounded as you can as a person. So whether it's like, I got into travel for a while, and I would love to travel even more, like go and see the world, like whatever
Yeah, you were
passions that
always
you.
going to like Peru and Machu Picchu and all. Yeah, I do remember that. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Like I can honestly say that traveling is better than any university or any school that I ever went to. I learned more about the world. I learned more about myself when I'm out there seeing new cultures and experiencing new things and meeting new people. And I can say that honestly that I have friends from literally every continent in the world, even though I haven't been to every continent yet, but it's still a goal of mine. I have friends from Africa, from Asia, from South America, plenty from Europe, and of course, like I have friends from all four corners of the country, but also like even some of our territories too. So it's like yeah, travel has been one of my great passions, and so like any piece of advice I would give to my younger self is like make sure that you have a passion outside of the industry and cultivate that. And also, I got into performance along the way too. Like I got into dance performance, improv comedy. I was a red-nosed clown with Y School, the circus school in Santa Fe, and that's just something that, oddly enough, which are all skills which make me really good in the service industry too. Uh, Somehow, like it all does tie back in, but also too, it just gave me something outside of the industry where I could turn my industry brain off and turn on my creative brain. And that really just kind of helped me to unwind from the industry, but also too, it gave me more purpose in life too. It helped me to just be more well rounded. And so, if I could tell myself, a younger self too, like keep doing that, and if not, if anything, do more of that if you can.
Sure. I, all of your advice echoes kind of what I would say too. I think that the only thing I would have added for myself, and this is just for myself, probably spend less time at the Matador, the dive bar in Santa Fe.
Yes.
Not zero. Like there are a lot of great memories and nights, but it didn't need to be every single night. uh,
Yeah. And I mean, I would tell my younger self too. And if I actually was sitting next to your younger self, I would tell him the same exact thing too. Like, we didn't necessarily need to be there as often as we were. I mean, as much fun as I had there and like the nightlife, but didn't need all the nights.
yes.
Um,
Friday,
so
Saturday, sure.
Friday,
Tuesday,
Saturday.
yeah.
They
Uh,
had a really good DJ on Monday nights that I like to go to, and so that was kind of fun. He
mm,
spun some really old classics from the R&B and Motown days, so that was kind of a fun night to be there. But yeah, like 4 or 5 nights a week, maybe could have cut down to 1 to 2. So
exactly.
yeah,
No, I mean having a hobby outside of the industry is really helpful. I don't know if I full on had that most of my time in the industry. My hobby kind of became studying wine and spirits,
sure, yeah,
which I mean, you get into it enough. It is different enough. It's not service. So
sure,
uh, during the COVID, I actually got into programming on the side, and doing that has been really nice because that's just completely not related to anything. That's been good. I do remember going to it was African dance, I believe, that you were
hmm
doing.
yeah,
Yeah, down in the rail
yeah.
yard.
Yeah, and actually, and that then that was another passion that I had, like just dancing in general, but also I love being on stage too. I love
Mhm.
performing for people and just kind of like being zany and kooky and helping them to get a laugh and like help them maybe take a little bit off or give them a moment of a reprieve from their life. Kind of like helping them laugh and chuckle, and also like see the brighter side of life too. So which again
Mhm.
does tie to the industry, but in a little bit of a different way that was as fulfilling, if not even more fulfilling for me as a person than serving bartending was or is.
Yeah. Do you think there's something that's almost fundamentally broken about people like me and you that go to the extremes in the industry? See, like, we couldn't just show up at a retail job, work it, go home. Couldn't just study wine a little bit. I had to keep going for the advanced. Do you think there's that propensity to more that like drives us to do these tests, to do the performance, do that sort of thing.
It's like it's something that I've asked myself quite a bit over the past several years, especially since I quit drinking. What is it about me that made me want to keep drinking as much as I was, even in spite of like the negative repercussions that came along with it. But it's something that I still have now. It's like I have this desire for more, and and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think that it does drive us to succeed in life. It's helped. Like it helped us get our level one. You moved on to level two. Now you're a GM. So, coming from like I know like you started as a bar back and now you're all the way up to GM, and who knows where it's going to keep going. It's definitely led me to that desire for wanting more in my life. It's definitely propelled me to travel as much as I have. That spark for travel is still there. To set foot on every continent is still a goal of mine. I think it's a very achievable goal. And but also too, it's like I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, so I've done hospitality and restaurants. What would be the next step for me? It would probably be to own my own place. And then if I was going to own my own place, what would I want to do? And I kind of have some ideas bouncing around in my head. Also, too, like maybe I just find a new industry altogether that I can get into that would spark me just as much as hospitality has. So I don't know, but I hear what you're saying though. Like I do wonder if there is something that's broken in us
Yes.
that makes us be able to stay in an industry which a lot of people can't do. It's like you need something different to be able to do what we've done, and also to stay in it and to keep coming back for more. It's like you can have a customer yelling at you one night, and then the next night you show up. You got your tie on, you got your shirt's fresh, and you're ready to give just 100% service once again. Or like maybe I know some of the owners and managers that we've worked with, like maybe not the best to work with in the world, but nonetheless we kept coming back.
That's true. Oh man, we didn't even talk about elf roll.
Oh
Do you
my
want to get
God,
into that,
Alfred.
or is that too much?
Oh no, I'm
Dealer's
happy.
choice.
Yeah, I'm an open book, man.
Okay,
So yeah, like
so
yeah. So let's
a
talk
little
Alpha Roll.
backstory for the listener. Okay,
Yeah.
so I brought Brian on kind of to work at elf roll. That's how I would say it.
hmm Like yeah, I mean
um,
like yeah again like I was sought after. You invited at one point, and you were one of the people
yeah,
that sought after me. So
yeah, that's true. That didn't go well. That's a nice way of saying it.
it's a very nice way to say it.
I know that they asked you to leave, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember why. I'm not gonna. Yeah,
The reason why was going back to Boosh. I got the job at Boosh and was going to work at Boosh 3 nights a week and do Alpha Roll 2 nights a week, or three if they wanted me. That way, again, I could do the fine dining at Boosh, but also the fun bartending at Alpha Roll. Because I had secured the prime gig at Alpha Roll, the Tuesday night blues jam, like which was the best night to bartend there because it was the busiest, and so I had secured that shift. And so I thought if I could just like, bartend at Alpha Roll 1 to 2 nights a week, maybe three if they needed, and then, serve fine dining, then again, like I would have been the happiest man in the whole wide world. But that meant that I would have to step down from full time at Alpha Roll. And that's why they let me go. They wanted me to be full time or nothing. Uh,
okay.
or yeah, that's the conversation I had actually.
That's why I was struggling to remember because as I was putting together my notes for today, I was like, he got let go. I know he wasn't stealing. I know nothing happened. I
Wow.
know he showed up to work the whole time. Yeah. But I remember they like escorted you out, I believe,
They
right?
didn't escort me out. Actually, it's funny enough though. They replaced me behind the bar mid shift on what ended up being my last night, the blues jam. And then I went. I changed
Yeah.
out of my uniform into my civvies, and I actually hung around the bar for a few minutes, just saying goodbye to all the regular customers who are there, who had actually grown to really really love. Like I had relationships with a lot of these people. And
Mhm.
so I just went around and let them know that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be your Tuesday night bartender anymore. I hope to see you guys around town, which of course Santa Fe is a small town, and I did see them. And so I spent some time just saying goodbye. But it was very unceremonious. In fact, actually, I would even call it straight up unfair.
Yeah.
That I wanted to adjust my schedule, but and then go work a different restaurant at the same time as still working there part time. And they did not want that. They wanted me
Mhm.
full time or nothing. And actually, that's actually the text that I got from Frida. She said, like, we need to have you on a schedule full time or we can't employ you, even though there were plenty of people who were there who did work other jobs. But for some reason, they didn't want that for me.
For sure. Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, it was that lack of ability to even discuss it. Because it
Yes.
happened, it was 0 to 100 out of nowhere.
It
Yeah.
was too, and yeah, and when I gave them my new availability, I didn't explain that I was going to work somewhere else, but I explained that I had other things that I wanted to do, and that I just wanted to scale down my availability, and so this is my new availability here. And at first they said, okay, that's fine. They didn't even ask me what it was. And I don't know if the word got out that I was going to go work at another restaurant while
Mhm.
being there at the same time, but I don't know, they never actually confirmed that or not. But they talked amongst themselves and decided that they needed to have me full time, or they couldn't keep me on the schedule. And so
Yeah.
then on actually, and then on my last night, what ended up was going to be my last night, was going to be my last blues jam. They replaced me in the middle of the shift, so they wouldn't even let me finish that shift.
Oh,
Yeah, so very unprofessional, very unceremonious. And even though I had only been there for a short time, because it was like, I was like, we were right on our first year of being open, the new Alpha role. I felt that I had garnered a little bit more respect than that, but was not shown that. And so that's the nature of the business at times.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So after that happened, I remember I put in my notice. I remember that
Yep.
didn't sit well with me. Which that was, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm like 5, 6, 7 years later. It's amazing that you see these things in different restaurants. You see the way that the servers and bartenders get treated. Not always, but
Mhm.
it is a position of lower leverage often. Yeah.
Yeah, it is too, and especially when you have owners, GMs, managers, and like in an industry like that, especially in a town where it is as big as it is in Santa Fe, you end up working with some pretty big egos, and so they do oftentimes see us as being completely replaceable,
Hmm.
and that's an unfortunate position to be in. Particularly if you have gotten to a level where you've achieved success. They've literally handed you the keys to be behind their bar and to be in the building by yourself after closing with no other manager there, because they trust you. So they have uh, thrown all this trust in your hands. And but then all of a sudden one night something a switch flips and you're out the door, and it isn't unfortunate. I haven't seen that as much in Ithaca out here, and I don't know what the difference is, but in Santa Fe I saw it quite a bit.
Yeah. And I'm trying to also hold on to, I'm very grateful for a lot of what L4L gave me.
Oh, for me
So
too. Yeah,
yeah, I'm like,
yeah,
that's how I got into the advanced course. And, being able to put buyer on my resume was how I snuck in. Don't tell
sure,
them,
yeah,
but, uh,
yeah.
but
No, I mean, I
yeah, as I'm thinking through it too, after I put in my notice and I was working it out, as I was coming out to look at houses and like my break, I pretty much got attacked through text messages and unceremoniously departed from there too early. So I
mhm.
think that might have just been a systemic thing. Less us, less us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and again, it's like I look back on it fondly overall. Like, obviously my departure left a sour taste for a while, but I don't necessarily regret having worked there. Like, one, that we got to work together again, just on a personal level,
Mhm.
and two, I got to work at one of the most storied bars in all of Santa Fe. It's like, and so I got to kind of put that feather in my cap too. I think a lot of the people who we worked with were great to work with. I had a lot of fun. I still remember actually Emilio Estevez coming to sit at the bar, so I got to chat it up with him for a few minutes.
Yes, that's
Even
right.
though, yeah, like not to name drop, but that was actually one of the perks of working in the industry in Santa Fe is, the sheer number of celebrities that would come through and that you got to meet and talk with. And he of course got whisked away by other tables because everybody wanted to talk to him about Mighty Ducks and about Young Guns. I wanted to talk to him about The Outsiders, but that's my speed. But just like getting to chat it up with him was a highlight, and also just too like it was a fun spot to be a part of. The history of the bar itself, it was great to immerse myself in that on a professional side of it. Getting to know the history of the building itself, which goes way back in Santa Fe, that actually a lot of people probably didn't even know. And so, like the lore of Santa Fe, a lot of it actually goes through that bar at El Farol, and I got to be there for a moment, and that was great.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I mean, the renovation was beautiful. It was a cool,
Yes.
yeah. No, I'm nothing but grateful for it, except for the end. Yeah, but
Exactly right.
it is what
It's
it
like,
is.
yeah, I mean, but if you can say that like 98% of the experience was good, I mean, that's an A plus and you get into Harvard. So,
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, cool. Brian Sincerbeaux, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for
hey, thank
taking the
you, man.
time to join me.
Absolutely. I hope,
Yeah.
I hope that, this was a good episode for you. Like I said, I listened to some of it, so I kind of had an idea of what you would be looking for and maybe questions that you'd be asking. But nonetheless, it's good to see you and talk to you again as well. Like it's been a little
Yeah.
while,
No,
and
it was awesome. It's, this is the cool thing. You get an hour to catch up with someone you haven't seen for forever, or an hour to learn something new. So it's been really fun for me to kind of recreate and re-explore the past that, you forget all the things that happened, and, you have your view of what you think happened, but you realize that you never got the full backstory. You're always so in your head that there's a lot that goes on you don't see.
yeah, for sure. Like and you brought up things about stuff that I had all together forgotten about, but nonetheless that were like really highlights of my time in Santa Fe, working in the industry, but also our friendship as well too. So like it's been kind of a nice trip down memory lane in a way.
Well, I'm happy. Brian's happy that I'm happy. If you enjoyed this, please leave a review, like, share. The more people that we can reach, the more people we can help, and the more people we can bring this message to, a message of hope and possibilities in the service industry. Everyone who listens, thank you. You are my people. Keep rocking on and have a great service. And please come back and listen again. We send out new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. How about that? All right, see you soon.